Hello everyone, welcome to this session on quants preparation. Now in today's discussion, we are going to cover the nuances of quants preparation. Now first thing that we need to understand is what is quants for us. So let me show you a breakup of this section. This is my breakup. This is what I give to my students. So quants, I've broken it into 5 blocks. The first block is arithmetic. The second block is algebra. The third block is number system. The fourth block comprises permutations, combinations, distributions, and probability. And the fifth block is the geometry block. Now, let's start off with the first block, the arithmetic block. Now, please understand arithmetic as a topic, more often than none, will test you on word problems. So most of the questions which is made out of arithmetic will have word problems. Now, one significant aspect of word problem is the language of the problem. So language will play a very, very important role in arithmetic. So the first step in becoming good at arithmetic is to read the question very nicely, very properly. You have to read the questions with proper care. Now, once you do that, 50% of your job is already done. So arithmetic, language plays a very, very important role. Now, under arithmetic block, we have kept these topics. You can see them for yourselves. The first topic is what is called important mathematical techniques. IMT stands for important mathematical techniques. Now, any student at a broad level can be categorized into two categories. Someone who likes maths, someone who does not like maths, right? So you have to belong to one of these two categories. Now, someone who does not like maths will either be a student who hates maths or who is scared of maths, or will be someone who is rusty about maths, as in, let's say the last time you studied maths was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, right? Now, regardless of the category you belong to, whether you like maths or you don't like maths, I always start off arithmetic with important mathematical techniques. Why? Because this acts as a bridge between what you have known in the past to what you have to know in the future. So it acts as a bridge session. Okay. So it delivers the right fundamentals that you need to know. Now, under important mathematical techniques, we cover a lot of techniques. Some of them are option elimination technique. Some of them are speed math techniques. Some of them are basic arithmetic techniques. Some of them are calculation techniques. So we cover all these techniques. So regardless of your past background, you're on the right track of learning arithmetic. Okay, so that's IMT. That becomes your first topic in arithmetic. After that, we have RPV. RPV stands for ratio proportion variation. Very important, very fundamental topic. It's the backbone of arithmetic. You need to be very good at this ratio proportions and variations. After that, we have averages and mixtures. These two topics together, I call it the average block. Averages and mixtures together will constitute the average block. The next few topics from here to here, if you see percentage basics, profit loss, markups and discounts, interest, installments, this is called the percentage block. All these topics require you to know fundamentals of percentages. So whatever you will cover in percentage basics, ultimately you'll apply it onto profit loss, markups and discounts, interest and installments. So these 5 topics constitute the percentage block. Now coming to time, work efficiency, time, speed, distance and partnership. These 3 topics are actually application topics on ratios. So ratio proportion variation, this is your fundamental topic, right? And once you cover the fundamentals of ratio proportion variation, you can apply those fundamentals onto these 3 topics: time, work efficiency, time, speed, distance, and partnership. So again, I'll call ratio proportion variation along with these 3 topics the ratio block, the R block. Now, if you carefully observe, the entire block of arithmetic is divided into 3 blocks: the average block, the percentage block, and the ratio block, right? And if you go further deep, you'll realize that all the 3 blocks are very similar. See, ratios can be visualized as fractions, some numerator upon some denominator, right? Percentage is also a fraction. For example, 50% is equal to 1 by 2. 1 by 2 is also a fraction. So here also you understand percentage from the standpoint of fractions. Even if you take average, what is the meaning of average? Average means sum upon count, sum of all observations upon total number of observations. So if you pay close attention, even average is of the form some numerator upon some denominator. So even this is a fraction, right? So simply put, if you want to have a good command over arithmetic, you need to have a good command over fraction. Because whether you take the average block or percentage block or ratio block, ultimately in some or the other way, you will be dealing with fractions. So fractions play a very, very important role in arithmetic. I hope this discussion on arithmetic is absolutely clear. So this is the ideal breakup for the arithmetic block. Now moving to algebra. Now algebra as a block is hated by many students, specifically those students who do not come from a mathematical background. And that's primarily because this topic is never taught to you the right way. Okay. So what do we do here? The first topic that we deal in algebra is fundamentals. So in this fundamentals of algebra discussion, I take care of all the sins that you've committed in the past. So again, we place you at the right forefront. We give you the right gear to understand the other topics of algebra. And that happens via fundamentals of algebra. After fundamentals, we take care of these two topics, AP, GP, HP, and summation. So sequences and summation, which is also called sequences and series, right? S and S, sequences and series. Then sign scheme. Sign scheme is a part of fundamentals. Then we cover modulus. Modulus is very important in algebra. So we cover all the fundamentals of modulus. Then we go for quadratic polynomials, higher degree polynomials. Higher degree polynomials mean you can go for cubic polynomial, biquadratic polynomial. So all these things we discuss under polynomials. Then we look at functions. Now under functions, I'll mention one important topic, which is logarithm, because you won't find logarithm mentioned anywhere else. So logarithmic functions are a part of functions, right? So we will discuss the topic logarithm as a part of functions. Then we'll discuss important graphical concepts associated with functions. Then we'll move to the world of inequations, maxima, minima, solving inequalities. All of it is a part of theory of inequations. Then we'll go to logical algebra. Logical algebra is a commonsensical way of solving algebra questions. So when you solve algebra questions without knowing any methods, without knowing any algebraic methods, that is called logical algebra, right? Then we'll also discuss equations of some specific forms, and we'll also discuss integral solutions at the end. Now this topic has some commonality with permutation combinations. So once you have covered all the other topics of algebra and you have covered permutation combinations, then you are in a good state to understand integral solutions. So this is the breakup of algebra. Now algebra is all about variables, equations, inequations, so variables and symbols. Algebra is the study of variables and symbols, right? Now moving on to the next block, which is number system. Now number system used to be very important in the past. The importance has declined in the current context, but still an important topic. You still need this topic, okay? So you first start off number system with understanding the number tree and special numbers, right? Special numbers are very, very important if you want to understand number patterns, because number patterns eventually help you in LRDI as well. So number tree and special numbers, it kicks off the number system block. Then we discuss basic remainder theorem and divisibility. And we'll understand divisibility from the standpoint of basic remainder theorem. We will also be able to derive divisibility rules by yourself, and you'll see a different way of approaching divisibility rules. So all that will be discussed here. After that, we'll discuss factors and everything about factors. We'll discuss around 1.5 dozen points with respect to factors. So everything which is connected to factors, we'll discuss it under factor theory. Then everything which is connected to remainders, we'll discuss it under remainder system. All the theorems that you might have heard of, everything we'll discuss in remainders theorem. Okay. After doing remainder system, we'll go to last n digits, finding out last 2 digits, last 1 digit, last 3 digits. All of this will cover under last n digits. We'll also discuss factorials and application topics. Then we'll move to HCF, LCM, and CRT. CRT stands for Chinese remainder theorem. So initially we had discussed BRT. Here we'll discuss CRT. CRT has some very close association between series and summation topic. So if you know series and summation, you'll find CRT very easy. After that, we'll look at base systems. In base systems, what we do is we cover all these concepts: factors, remainders, last 10 digits, factorials, but in different base. So currently the base system that we use is the decimal base system. We use the base 10, right? So we'll learn how to work on different bases. Let's say base 5, base 6, base 7. So that all is understood in base systems. Not very important, but it's important from the standpoint of revision. Because if you understand base systems, it's an indicator that you've understood everything else in number system. And any concept or any topic which does not belong to any of these categories that we have created, I'll call it miscellaneous. So miscellaneous concepts in number system. See, the scope of this topic is infinite. You can create infinite number of questions in number system. Okay. So this breakup will take care of most of it. Okay. Now number system, as the name suggests, is all about numbers, right? Moving to the next block: permutation, combinations, distributions, probability. Now this topic is all about counting methods. How well you count, the ability to count in different ways. This is tested in this block. We can call it the counting block if you want. So we start off with principles of counting. Then we understand the nuances of permutation combinations the right way. I see a lot of students who are weak in this topic, primarily because they have never seen this topic in the right direction. They have never approached the topic in the right direction. So we will do that here. We'll understand PNC in a different way. Then we'll look at distributions. After covering distributions, we'll start off with probability, and we'll start off with probability foundation. I find a lot of students who are weak in probability, and the reason is the foundation is not strong. They are not clear with their basic concepts, and they start solving difficult probability questions. And that way they'll always are confused in probability. So we'll first take care of this probability foundation, and then we'll probably level it up in probability extended. And then we'll look at the all high frequency probability scenarios to end the topic. So this is my way of breaking this block. I hope it is clear. So this block is all about counting numbers. So in number system, we dealt with numbers. Here we are dealing with counting of those numbers. Last but not least, geometry. So geometry as a topic is all about diagrams, right? Now, I see 90% of the students, they are not good in geometry. And the reason they are not good in geometry is because they study this topic in a totally wrong way. You cannot learn geometrical ideas by memorizing and vomiting. That's not the right way of dealing with geometry. See, the kind of geometry that we learn is Euclidean geometry. Okay. And this geometry was derived out of some basic propositions. Okay. So basically what we are going to do is we are going to take some basic ideas. We are going to start off with few basic ideas. And using those few fundamental basic ideas, we are going to derive all of geometry. And that way of learning geometry will make you inquisitive about geometrical ideas. And that's the right way of learning geometry. So we'll see a totally different way of approaching geometry. Okay. We'll start off with fundamentals of geometry. Then we'll look at some basic trigonometry ideas because that is needed. Then we'll look at all the important diagrams: triangles, circles, quadrilaterals, parallelogram, rhombus, square, rectangle, trapezium. All of these are quadrilaterals. Then we'll discuss polygons in general: convex polygons, concave polygons. We'll look at 3D geometry. Then we'll look at coordinate geometry. Coordinate geometry is needed for some exams. Then we'll look at MPG. MPG stands for mass point geometry. Okay, it is sometimes useful in certain templates. Wherever ratios are involved, we can use mass point geometry to get the answers real fast. Then at the end, we'll discuss logical geometry. Now, what is logical geometry? So like we had logical algebra, we have logical geometry. So solving geometry without knowing geometrical ideas. Solving geometry using common sense is called logical geometry. So this is my breakup of quant section. Okay. I find this very exhaustive. So if you follow this, you will be prepared for any exam in the right way. You will be equipped to get an out of out performance in any exam that you're targeting. So this is the way in which I am going to break up the quant section. Now, see, gone are those days when just knowing the concepts will qualify you as being good in quants. Nowadays, there needs to be a lot of factors that you need to gain command on. So To achieve a 360-degree level of expertise in quants, these following factors are extremely important in my opinion. Let's go through them one by one. The first one is conceptual clarity. Goes without saying, right? There is no substitute for this. You need to know concepts. There cannot be any excuse of not knowing a particular concept. You need to know every goddamn concept. That's very, very important. After concepts, you need to learn methods. You need to learn efficient methods, right? The fastest way of doing a particular problem. There could be an innovative way of doing a particular problem. There could be a method that you have developed yourself. You need to bring in efficiency in your methods. Okay. So you need to learn all the efficient methods which are available to a particular topic. Then you need to develop spontaneity and structure in your thought flow. See, this spontaneity is very, very important. You need to be spontaneous in your thought process, because more often than none, whenever you come across a new question or a new look or a question which appears to be new, you need to be spontaneous in your thought process. You need to be quickly able to create an analogy with some old question with this new question and try to create a link and then solve it. So that spontaneity needs to be developed. And also there needs to be a structure in the thought flow. Whenever you come across a question, you should know what is my step one, what is my step two, what is my step three. If you're not able to figure out the steps leading to the solution of a question, you should not be attempting that question. So that leads to the next point, which is judgment. You should develop the right judgment also. The art of selection and the art of rejection is very, very important in today's context. Some exams expect you to solve limited questions. Some exams expect you to solve a lot of questions. So there you need to develop this idea of judgment. So you need to take right judgment calls. It's a very, very important aspect of your quants preparation. Next is speed optimization. The ability to increase or decrease speed depending on the scenario is very, very important. Some questions expect more time to be given. Some questions expect less time to be given. You need to keep a balance. You need to strike that balance. So that is speed optimization. Confidence to take on new questions, very important. See, when you're taking an exam under examination pressure in an examination hall, you will be subjected to a lot of unwanted pressure. And at that point, you should have this confidence of tackling a new question. See, when I see a new question, let's say I'm not able to solve it, I have the confidence to comment on it that if I'm not able to solve it, I know that 99% of the janta will not be able to solve it. So that kind of confidence I want in you. So that confidence can do a lot of wonders. You can solve questions which otherwise you could not have solved. So again, confidence can do a lot of wonders. So we want that confidence to take on new questions, because once you see a new question, and if you have that confidence, you'll never be afraid of it. You will never get intimidated, right? Next is right reading skills. This goes without saying. You need to be a good reader. If you're not a good reader, you'll struggle in every area of your preparation, be it quants, be it English, or be it LRDI. Then you need to be a good observer. You need to improvise. So observation based improvisation. You need to first observe and then lead that observation to improvisation. I'll give you a simple example. What do I mean by this? For example, let's take a quadratic function. So you all know quadratic equation, right? The general form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So I've taken a quadratic function in x. Okay. I'll do a very simple thing here. I'll just substitute x with 1. I'll substitute this x with 1. So I'll write f1 here. And on the right hand side, if you put x is equal to 1, and if you substitute a into 1 square will give you a, b into 1 will give you b, and c. What have you got here? A plus b plus c. So what I've done is I've tried a very simple experiment. I've just substituted x with 1 and I've got ABC on the right hand side. So can I say in algebra, whenever I come across a plus b plus c, I should keep this in mind that it could be a representation of quadratic function, just that I have to substitute x is equal to 1. So this is a small observation that I've made. I'll add it to my notes and I'll wait for that opportunity कि मैं इसको कब use कर सकूं. So you have to make these simple observations. Okay, I'm not asking you to become a mad scientist, but if you are always in a lookout for these simple observations, your entire process will improve. Your mind will become inquisitive. आप हमेशा कुछ ढूंढते रहोगे नया, and that will help you to develop your own methods also, and that's very, very important. So this observation based improvisation. Next point is coverage of representative questions. Now let me first define representative questions. Now representative questions are those questions which represent a topic. So it should represent a topic in depth as well as in width. So For every topic, you should find certain number of questions which defines a particular topic. And those questions become very important to you. When you're solving representative questions, you should not be going for redundancy. You should not be going for repeats. Because representative questions का मतलब होता है वो सारे questions करना जिससे वो topic define हो. तो मुझे उन questions में I don't want any repetition to be there. I don't want similar pattern questions in the list of representative questions. So you need to cover your representative questions while covering concepts either parallelly or after it. That's very, very important. Okay. So for example, you might find it a difficult task to figure out representative questions. So that is where assistants come into picture. So for example, in my class, representative questions are provided in class sheet. So whichever questions are provided in your class sheet, they are called representative questions. So you don't have to worry about it. कि मुझे ढूंढना पड़ेगा representative questions. Because it can take a lot of time, right? You might have to go to 3, 4, 5 books, 3, 4, 5 sources, and then realize what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. And then you can come up with a set of representative questions. So again, that's not always very wise. So again, in our class, we give it in the form of class sheet, and they are called concept reinforcement questions. Okay. After that, the next point is periodic and monitored revision. See, revision is very, very important. Without revision, whatever you do will almost become a waste. See, you can solve 1,000 questions in the month of April, May, June. Okay. Will that make any sense if you are not able to carry the benefits of these 1,000 questions into the exam hall when you take the exam in the month of October, November, December, January, whenever that may happen? No, right? So you can only carry everything to the exam hall if you revise it well. And when I say revise it well, I mean there should be monitoring in your revision. You should be knowing what are you revising and how much of it is left. And there should be periodicity in revision. As in, you should have different kinds of revision models. Maybe a monthly revision model, a bi-weekly revision model, a daily revision model, a bi-monthly revision model, revision after every 3 months. Now, most of these students, what they do is they keep the entire lot to be revised just before the exam. And that's not the right thing to do. Okay. So revision needs to be periodic. It needs to be monitored. Very, very important, because we want to carry everything to the exam hall, right? That's the whole purpose of doing all this. Next point is right psychology. Arguably the most important point. We'll have a separate discussion on right psychology, but here I'll just mention a few points. Students these days have become very lazy. They don't want to work hard. The old school charm of working with a question has gone. As soon as you don't solve a question, you don't get the answer, you immediately look out for it in Google or you post it as a doubt. That's not the right way of approaching questions. So we are living in a world where wrong psychology is dominating the students. So right psychology, I'll keep it as a separate discussion because it will be a lengthy discussion and I don't want it to be a part of this discussion. So right psychology is very, very important for overall improvement in any section. Okay. Coming to the next point, efficiency maintenance while covering assessment questions. Now here, I want to first define what are assessment questions. See, when you start preparing for any particular topic, first of all, you do concepts and then you cover representative questions. Now, after doing these two, concepts and representative questions, you're ready. You have covered that topic. Now you're ready to tackle on new questions. Now, after this, you solve, let's say, some set of questions just to test yourself. Okay. Just to see whether you are able to solve new questions on that topic or not, because you have already covered the concepts and representative questions. So any question that you solve after covering concepts and representative questions, those questions are called assessment questions. It could be from a database, from a question repository. It could be in the form of a mock test, could be in the form of a section test, could be in any form. Till the time you're solving a question just to test yourself, those questions are called assessment questions. So I hope the definition is absolutely clear. Now, while solving these questions, I want you to maintain efficiency. Now, what does it mean? So I'll make it very simple for you. Please do not solve any assessment question which comes without a solution. If you're solving a question which does not have an answer key and a solution attached to it, please do not go for that question. Now, why am I saying so? Please understand, if you solve a question which does not have answer key or the solution, you will end up wasting your time. So now there are two possibilities. Once you take that question up, you will be able to solve it. You won't be able to solve it. Now, if you're able to solve it, there's no way for you to check the solution, whether you're right or wrong, because you don't have answer key or the solution. So that will add fatigue to your process, right? Now, if you're not able to solve, then it becomes more dangerous because now you don't have anything. Now you start looking for solutions like a crazy person. And if you don't get it in time, it totally demotivates you, right? So my point is, when you're not able to solve an assessment question, why do you need to wait for someone else to solve that question? Why do you need to rely on someone else? Let's say you solve a question, you're not able to solve it. Let's say I'm your mentor and you send that question to me as a doubt. See, I will solve it, but is it a guarantee that I'll solve it when you want it to be solved? I'll take my own good time to solve it, right? मैं जब आराम से बैठूंगा तब solve करूंगा. Let's say आप मुझसे नहीं पूछते, आप किसी friend से पूछते हो. वो friend ने right solve किया नहीं किया आपको पता है क्या? No, right? So this entire process crops in a lot of inefficiency. It's a lot of time wastage. And I don't want that to happen. On the other hand, if you solve those assessment questions which come up with keys and solutions, अगर आपसे नहीं बना, you can immediately fix the problem. आप तुरंत solution देख के solve कर सकते हो. You won't have to rely on anyone. You won't have to depend on anyone, right? See, I'm not discouraging you from asking doubts. There is a time and moment. Doubts need to be legit in nature. What is a legit doubt? We'll understand that in the course of this discussion only. But please understand, if you want to maintain efficiency in your preparation when solving assessment questions, only solve those questions जिनके हाथ पैर हो. हाथ पैर मतलब solutions हो. ठीक है? Do not solve random questions. WhatsApp group पे क्वेश्चन देखा आपने, solve करना शुरू कर दिया, आपसे सॉल्व नहीं हुआ, आपने पूछा सामने वाले से कि इसका आंसर बता, उसने बोला मेरे पास आंसर नहीं है. वी डोंट वांट टू बी इन दिस ब्रैकेट. ये सब मत करो प्लीज आप. आई होप यू आर फाइन विद इट. ओके, सो दैट्स कॉल्ड एफिशिएंसी मेंटेनेंस. नेक्स्ट, knowledge of the sample space. Very important. You should know what your sample space is. So you should define the sample space of every topic. आपको पता होना चाहिए एक टॉपिक की बाउंड्रीज क्या है. You cannot prepare for a topic endlessly. When the syllabus becomes infinite, it becomes very difficult to prepare, right? एंड क्वेश्चंस तो कभी खत्म होंगे नहीं, तो आपको ही फुल स्टॉप डालना पड़ेगा. यू नीड टू पुट अ फुल स्टॉप. सो हाउ टू पुट अ फुल स्टॉप? इट्स वेरी सिंपल. कॉन्सेप्ट्स प्लस रिप्रेजेंटेटिव क्वेश्चंस प्लस सम असेसमेंट क्वेश्चंस which makes you feel confident. Once you achieve this, put a boundary around it. Now this becomes your sample space, and know your sample space for every topic, because you're going to revise it again and again. The sample space needs to be revisited and revised. Okay, but if you don't know your sample space, how will you revise? आपको कैसे पता चलेगा कितना revise करना है? So all the points, all these factors that I've discussed in this slide, they are very, very important. I hope you will take care of it. Just knowing the concepts is not good enough. इस सारी चीजों के बीच में balance आपको बनाना पड़ेगा if you want to become a pro at quants. Okay. Now, to become a pro at quants, we will follow the QA process. It's a very fundamental process, but we have to follow it religiously, right? So to develop a strong quantitative aptitude, we have the QA process in place. So this QA process will take care of all those factors that we have discussed in that previous slide, right? So we want the entire process to become organic. When you are solving a quant question, whether you decide to solve it or not, whether you solve it or not, all these things should become organic. Okay. So again, for that, we have the QA process in place. So the QA process has got 3 steps to it. The first step is what I call the preparation step. The second step is called the assessment step. And the third step is called the revision step. Okay. So in the first step, in the preparation step, we are going to use some preparation tools. What are those tools? First of all, your sessions. Okay. So if you're my student, the sessions, be it online or offline, they become your most important preparation tool. Because via these sessions, you will know all the concepts. You'll also know all the efficient methods, and you'll also develop a structured thought flow. You'll also get guidance. So these 4 points will be taken care of by my sessions. Then you can use some basic books, right? Basic books and class sheets. They will help you to get your representative questions. And I'll also give you some tasks apart from all this to encourage observations. I want some observations to come out of you. So this is called the preparation step. In your preparation step, you use these preparation tools to take care of these points. Are we clear with the preparation step? Okay. Now, once we're done with preparation, we go to assessment step. So once we're done with preparation, we are comfortable with the topic. Now we want to assess ourselves. Now for assessment step, what are the tools that we're going to use? We will use a question database, or we'll use any form of test, section test, topic test, module test, or it could even be a full length mock test. I'm more of a fan of full length mock test, but you can even use a question database. So you can pick up some questions out of a question database and you can start solving them for the purpose of assessment. Because once you start doing that, you also help your confidence. You also work on improvisation. You also develop the right judgment. You also develop spontaneity in your process. You also understand your assessment questions, because once you understand your assessment questions, and when you merge it with your concepts and representative questions, then you define your sample space. You also learn the technique of optimization. Speed बढ़ानी है, कम करनी है, time बढ़ाना है, time करना है. All of this is very closely connected, and that is taken care of in the second step, assessment step. So once you're done with your preparation, you start assessing yourself. कुछ practice करो थोड़ा सा. That's important. Okay. Coming to the next step, what is the next step? The next step is revision. Very important. Now, for revision, what are the tools? The first tool is your recordings, the recordings of the sessions. Okay. The recordings of the sessions have to be used primarily for revision, primarily to revisit a particular lecture. 3 महीने पहले जो lecture हुआ है, आज आपके पास वो option है कि आप आज वो lecture देख सको, and you can recollect everything, right? So session recordings act as a very good revision tool. Then you can use the fast forward feature on your system. So आप fast forward करके, pause करके, you can use these technicalities to help your revision, right? आप check कर सकते हो. सब कुछ same pace में देखने की जरूरत नहीं जैसा आपने पहले देखा था, right? You can make it fast. You can fast forward it, right? Your own notes. Your notes are very, very important. If you make your notes properly, you don't need recordings. You don't need fast forwards. Your notes, they are the fastest way to revise something. So whenever you're learning concepts, whenever you are solving representative questions, it should constitute your notes. Your notes should have everything, because that way you're doing it twice. पहले तो आप समझ रहे हो, फिर आप लिख भी रहे हो, and then you're using it for revision purpose also. So notes very, very important. And there's something called as revision protocol. So this I give it to my students. So basically, just to bring right periodicity in revision, right monitoring in revision, we have this revision protocol. So we are going to use this revision protocol as a tool for revision, right? So again, if you do all of this, you will have periodicity, right? You will be able to retain a lot more because you'll be revising a lot more, and you'll also be offloading topics, as in धीरे धीरे आपका burden भी कम होगा, because the more you revise, the more that topic becomes organic in your head. So this is a 3-step process: preparation, assessment, and revision. Preparation में क्या क्या लगेगा दिया है, assessment में क्या क्या लगेगा दिया है. Are we okay with this? So this is the QA process that we have. Okay. Now, once we have understood the QA process, let's understand the time allocation matrix. कितना time देना चाहिए to every block in quants. We have already broken the quant section into 5 blocks, right? So arithmetic, we are going to spend 50 hours. So 50 hours is called the coverage time. So what does coverage time include? Let me tell you. So under coverage time, first of all, the time that you need to master the concepts, the time that you need to understand the methods, the time that you need to cover representative questions, the time that you use for notes, all this is included in coverage time. Okay. Now, this is coverage time. If you add all these 4 components, you get your coverage time. Now, along with these 4 components, if you add the revision time, if you add the time used for solving assessment questions, if you add the time for making additional notes, right? If you add these 3 components, then it is what is called engagement time. So this entire, the total time taken to do all of this is called engagement time. But coverage time includes these 4 steps. I hope you are clear with the difference between coverage time and engagement time. So coverage time is a subset of engagement time, right? So if you see for arithmetic, The engagement time is 75 hours. So in these 75 hours, 50 hours is also included. मतलब ये 50 घंटे लगेंगे कॉन्सेप्ट्स के लिए, मेथड्स के लिए, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव क्वेश्चंस के लिए और नोट्स बनाने के लिए, और एक्स्ट्रा 25 आवर्स हमने रखे हैं रिवीजन के लिए, असेसमेंट क्वेश्चंस एंड एडिशनल नोट्स के लिए. Are you guys understanding this? If you have understood it for arithmetic, you can understand it for all the other blocks also. And the numbers that you can see on the screen, these are the ideal numbers. It takes care of two major problems. Number one, over emphasis on not important topics and under emphasis on important topics. ये दोनों चीजों, ये दोनों problems को solve अगर करना है, you just follow this time allocation matrix. See, there are many students who are very crazy about certain topics. वो numbers पे ही 100 घंटे लगा देते हैं, and they fail to realize that the numbers has lost its charm. वो इतना important नहीं रहा है अभी. You can know everything that is supposed to be known about numbers in 30 years. We are not compromising anywhere. Please understand. We are learning this in a way that we are ready for an out performance. So we're not even compromising on one single mark. Okay. So जो भी मैंने आपको चीजें बताई, the factors, all those factors which are needed to become a prodigy in quants, this time allocation matrix takes care of that. So 185 hours of coverage and 250 hours of engagement is all that is needed to become a master at quants for these exams. I hope we are okay with this time allocation matrix. Now, for these assessment questions, right, we have understood what these assessment questions mean. These are those questions which you solve after you're done with your concepts and representative question, just to test yourself, right? So whenever you're solving an assessment question, I want you to follow a problem solving approach. I want you to follow a workflow. What is that workflow? Let me explain. So at the first step, you source the question and you read the question carefully. That's the first step. You have to be conscious of this step, okay? You have to read the question carefully. You have to respect the question. Many a times what happens, जैसे कोई topic आप सीख लेते हो, you start disrespecting the topic. Don't do that. हर question की एक जान होती है, एक value होती है जो आपको समझनी पड़ेगी, जिसकी इज्जत करनी पड़ेगी. Okay? Don't take it casually. So first of all, source a question, read the question. Try to solve those questions using R methods. You will not be using any bookish methods. I want you to solve the questions using R methods. Okay. If you're not my students, use efficient methods, but don't use your bookish classical methods. Okay. Solve using R methods. Now at this step, two things can happen. Either you have solved the question or you were not able to solve the question, right? Now, if you were able to solve the question, that is, if solved, read the explanation. So you have solved it using your method. And now you need to look at the solution or the explanation. See if there is something new to it. If you find something new to it, take it. If you find a lengthy method, dump it. Okay. Now, if you're not able to solve the question, please don't jump to the explanation. Just look at the answer key. If you're not able to solve the question, you just have to look at the answer key. कभी-कभी क्या होता है ना, answer key जानने से question दम तोड़ देता है. So that answer key could turn out to be the weak link. So मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ, before looking at the explanation of a question, first look at the answer key. Answer key देखने के बाद try करो backtrack करने का. Apply reverse engineering. Try to move from answer to the question. There's a very high possibility that you'll be able to do it. So this is called perform reverse operation. Before looking at the solution, try this out. हो सकता है आपको question अपने आप समझ में आ जाए. Just that you have cheated. Just that you have seen the answer. No problem. We are doing this for cultivating the right habits. We have to do it. So perform this reverse operation. अभी रिवर्स ऑपरेशन करने के बाद भी दो चीजें हो सकती है. या तो आपसे सॉल्व हो गया या सॉल्व नहीं हुआ. और अगर सॉल्व नहीं हुआ, then it's the time to read the explanation. It's the right time to read the explanation. Right? अभी आप पढ़ो explanation को, देखो उसमें क्या बताया गया है. See what you were doing wrong. अभी यहाँ पे भी दो चीजें हो सकती है. आपको explanation समझ गया, explanation नहीं समझा. अगर आपको explanation समझ गया, let's say you've understood the explanation. Now it's your time to force fit into our methods. Because you have seen an explanation which shows a different method of solving the question. You want to convert it into our method of solving it, right? So you should try to force fit into our method. Okay? और अगर explanation नहीं समझता है, force fit भी नहीं कर पा रहे हो आप, कुछ भी नहीं कर पा रहे हो, if you are still clueless, then this becomes a doubt, and this is a legit doubt. This is a genuine doubt. ये एक ऐसे क्वेश्चन को आपने डाउट कहा है जो डाउट कहलाना डिजर्व करता है. So I want you to tag your doubts like this. Your doubt should be a question on which you have taken the necessary efforts first. And if you follow this workflow, वो सब कुछ हो जाएगा automatically. You won't have to worry about it. Now, since you have tagged a question as a doubt because you have tried out everything and nothing has worked for you, you have tried solving it, you have tried taking the help of the answer key, you have seen the explanation, you have tried reverse engineering, you have tried force fitting into our methods. None of this has worked. Now, so again, you need to present your doubt. You should not be asking your doubt. Okay, what is the difference? Let me explain. So when you decided to take help for your legit doubt, you need to present your doubt. You should not be asking your doubt. क्या difference है? Let me explain. Asking a doubt. Sample example. Sir, मुझसे question solve नहीं हुआ. Please solve it. I could not solve a question. Please solve it for me. This is called asking a doubt. Presenting your doubt means what? Sir, मैंने ये क्वेश्चन ट्राई किया, ये मेरा फर्स्ट स्टेप है, ये मेरा सेकंड स्टेप है, ये मेरा थर्ड स्टेप है, फोर्थ स्टेप पे मैं अटक गया एंड आई थिंक मैंने पहले 3 स्टेप्स में सब कुछ सही किया बट फोर्थ स्टेप के आगे मुझे समझ नहीं रहा है क्या करूं. क्या आप देख सकते हो मैंने क्या गड़बड़ की है? कैन यू फाइंड द बॉटल नेक्स इन माई लॉजिक? दिस इज कॉल्ड प्रेजेंटिंग अ डाउट. आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस. ओके, सी व्हेन यू आस्क अ डाउट you only want a solution. You will never be able to improve via that because आप सामने वाले जिनसे आप हेल्प ले रहे हो उनको तो पता ही नहीं आपकी प्रॉब्लम क्या है, राइट? भले आपसे ये क्वेश्चन का सोल्यूशन मिल जाएगा आपको बट यू वोंट बी एबल टू improve for other questions. You need to be consistent, right? When you present your doubt, the person on whom which you are relying for doubt clarification, the person gets to know the problem that you are facing and he addresses that problem, and that can only happen if you present the doubt. So please understand, once you tag a question as a doubt, you need to present your doubt. You cannot just ask your doubt. अगर सिर्फ doubt पूछना है ना for the purpose of solution, please Google it out. You'll find the solution. There's no need for you to depend on someone. I hope you understand, right? So this entire process, we have to make sure that the efficiency is intact. Efficiency maintenance हमेशा करनी है. And anyways, I've told you that you'll never solve an assessment question without answer key and explanation to it. We have already taken care of that part. So this is the right workflow because in this workflow, you're doing everything the right way. A doubt which is supposed to be called a doubt is called a doubt. किसी भी फालतू क्वेश्चन को आप डाउट नहीं बना रहे हो. See, half the times you tag a question as a doubt which ideally could have been solved if you had tried it one more time. But students में आजकल इतना patience होता नहीं है. So that's the reason I have to give it to you in the discussion. I have to present it to you in the form of a discussion that you have to follow this. So जो भी मैंने आपको यहाँ पे बताया, you have to follow this religiously. I hope you're okay with it. Okay. So this is the right way of dealing with this quant section. And again, mind that we are not compromising anywhere. We are doing everything the right way. Every checkbox is ticked if you follow this process. Okay. If you're very serious about your quants preparation, if you're very serious about your career, I will strongly recommend you the quants online bundle that we have created. You can go to courses.eqlclasses.com and you can see this bundle, EQL Quant Super Bundle. This is specifically for quants, and there is this super online bundle which is for all these sections. It's a full course. This is a flagship course, but this Quant Super course, the Quant Super Bundle, will take care of the quant section. So I'll take you inside this bundle. So this bundle, if you see, there's this overview. I would want you to go through the overview. Please go to the link and read the overview because then you'll understand what we are offering in this bundle. So these courses are given as a part of this bundle. The 5 blocks: arithmetic, algebra, numbers, PNC, distributions, probability, geometry. And there is something called as QA gym, quant gym. So basically here, this is for extra practice. Okay. I'll show you arithmetic. So we have gone inside arithmetic now. We'll go to syllabus. So if you see, all the topics are here: IMT, ratio proportion, percentage, profit loss, markup discount, simple interest, compound interest, installments, averages, mixtures with replacement, time work efficiency, subtopics of time, speed, distance. So all the topics of arithmetic are there. Okay. So likewise, you can go to algebra, numbers, PNC. We have not compromised on any single topic. In my opinion, this is India's best course available for quants preparation. See, I have seen a lot of other courses which are available in the market, which are very popular also. And I can confidently say that this course beats all of them. You can try it out. We have got around 15 hours of demo videos in the course, which is available. You just need to enroll as a free user and you can see those videos for yourself. And trust me, those videos are not our best videos. Okay. So I will never roll out any content free of cost. I'm very closely attached to my content. Okay. Because we have worked so hard on this. We have made a beautiful course. I want you to exploit it. So if you're planning to join a quants course, do consider this one, sample it out, go through the demo session, speak with us. If you have any queries, get it sorted. We'll help you in every possible way. It's a full support course that you're going to get. And if you're looking for the full course, if you want to take care of all the 3 sections, we have the super online bundle, which takes care of English as well as quants as well as LRDI. I hope this session has been of some value addition to you. I hope you follow the process that I had discussed. Every point that I have discussed, please follow it. Whether you're my student or not, I would encourage you to follow everything that I have discussed in this discussion. I hope you're good to go. Take care. All the best.